All right, good evening. This is the September 12th meeting of the City of Jefferson Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Alan Wheat, and I am the chairperson of the commission. We'll start with our council liaison to introduce himself, and then we'll go through the council.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Aaron Mealy, Second Ward City Council.
Brian Warren.
Laura Ward.
Deborah Foster Green.
Brad Schaefer.
Christine Boston.
Rachel Senzi, city staff.
Owen Kirshner, city staff.
Thank you. So tonight, of the 9 members, we have absent, let's see here, Donna Dietz, Tiffany Patterson, and Amanda Burke-Williams. Do any of the members here disqualify for any voting of the agenda items? Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed or amended? All in favor say aye. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 8th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay. Is there any old business?
No.
Okay. New business. Demolition clearance public hearing over 100 years old would be 203 Brook Street. Any demolitions 100 years or older are required to have a public hearing before the commission makes its recommendation. Rachel, will you please read the format of the hearing and order of the testimony?
Yes. Format of hearing, order of testimony. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please step. We don't have the microphones are throughout the room, so just please speak clearly. If you come to the podium, you should be already mic'd, but just project yourself towards the chair. The standard order of each case is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or the consultants will provide information on the request. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes unless additional time is granted by the commission. The applicant shall have 3 additional minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the commission. City staff will then make their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including staff reports and applicable findings, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the commission. The commission will close testimony from the floor. The commission will then discuss the proposal and then publicly make its determination with reasons. The form of the motion shall be positive. That is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor, nays opposed. The chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes against. And you want me to see with list of exhibits?
Please.
Okay. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting. The City Code of the City of Jefferson as amended, copies of applications under consideration, copies of drawings, plans, or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, rules of procedure for the Historic Preservation Commission. These items are public record and available for inspection of the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. Comprehensive plan and land use map. Please be advised that any items that are presented, distributed, or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration become the property of the commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters.
Okay. Now open the testimony for the public hearing. Do you have any staff reports?
I do. Oh. So sorry, it's coming up transversed on the screen. So within your packet, you have the city staff report. We received an application for demolition clearance review of a commercial standpipe or water tower located at 203 Brook Street. And unfortunately, it's not projecting on the screen very well, but you should have the map in your packet. There's a couple of addresses associated with the property. There's 203 Brook Street, there's 906 West Main, and 909 West Main. The purpose of the request is to receive the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation to receive a permit to demolish the water tower located at 203 Brook Street. The structure was originally constructed in 1888. Current property owners are pursuing demolition due to the deterioration of the water tower and uncertainty of its structural integrity. The water tower will no longer be used as part of the water treatment or distribution system. When going through the staff analysis that's located within the city code, we went through the property is not listed on the National Register. The water treatment facility is currently being surveyed by Stantec as part of the Phase 2 West Main survey. The property is not a local landmark. We did find that the property character, interest, or value is part of the development heritage or cultural characteristics of the community, county, state, or nation, as well as the applicant. They include that on their request. Jefferson City's early developmental history was challenged by consistent water issues. The 1885 Sanborn map cites water facilities not good. That's what I have up on the screen. Yeah. Construction of the Jefferson City Waterworks started in 1888 by P. Perkins of Springfield, Missouri. During the fire response efforts to the 1911 Capitol Fire were hampered by poor water pressure and eventually a water main collapsed. Some blame was placed on the Jefferson City's privately owned water supply, which had not been adequately maintained. So the water works kind of directly correlates with the Capitol. After the 1911 fire of the Capitol, there was threats. So Sedalia had a fire department. They came by train. We did not have the water system to be able to put out the fire. So there was criticism for not having a fire department. There was criticism for not having adequate water supplies. The Commercial Club of Jefferson City started the Jefferson City Water Company in an effort to maintain the state capitol in Jefferson City. And if you'll remember, that's the same group that would consistently meet at the country club. And that group was responsible for a lot of the public infrastructure that we have within the city. So those are a group of people that got together. That is all cited within the historic context. Also that checked off on the staff analysis is the property unique location or singular physical characteristics that make it an established or visual feature. The historic context recommends conducting an industrial building thematic survey and specifically cites the waterworks. Here's the standpipe itself, or standpipe water tower. It's synonymous with, right? Okay. My daughter calls it a rocket ship, so we're gonna go with that. So the standpipe is located up on the corner. And we included all of the pictures in your packet for your review. For the presentation, we just took out ones that we thought would be really of use for the public presentation. So staff recommendation, in reviewing section 8-43F, the structure is notable in terms of subsection A, its association with an event or events that significantly contributed to the broad patterns of history or architectural heritage of the city, county, state, or nation. And subsection H, it is an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood or the entire community. Current zoning of this area is RA2 residential. The proposed structure for demolition is currently not listed locally or nationally, but would likely be eligible as a contributing structure once the survey is received. Due to the facility serving as a water utility, it is understandable that upgrades over time are required in order to provide safe water for customers and safety for communities. It is staff recommendation to approve approval for the demolition of the water tower at 203 Brook Street. It is also recommended that the Historic Preservation Commission consider conditions defined in section 8-43I such as ensure the notable structure is properly documented for posterity, and new construction design harmonizes with historic character of the surrounding residential neighborhood. And I'd be happy to answer any questions to the commission.
Does anyone have questions for Rachel?
Is this present structure the 1888 structure?
As far as we can find, yes.
So if this comes down, what happens to the site?
So I would defer to the applicant when they come up.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions for Rachel? Okay. All right. Would the applicant like to present the case? Yes. Okay. Before you come forward, could you identify yourself?
Sure. I'm Brent Haas. I'm the manager of operations for Missouri American Water Company here in Jefferson City. And with me is Harry Frank, staff engineer and project manager for our new filter building project.
All right. Would you like to present to us first? You have a presentation to give us?
Sure. I submitted some photographs to Rachel, and I think the photo she has up there is the first one. So it's aerial photo. You already shared an earlier version of that. So.
Dawn's your driver. So.
I'm over there.
Oh, okay. So keep in mind, we've been at this facility where the water company in different forms and different ownership has been at that facility since the late 1800s. So we continue to provide quality drinking water for the citizens of Jefferson City, and this project is initiated because of the need for a new water filtration system, which we built on Main Street. So the existing water filter building is the brick structure on the foreground, but beyond it is the water tower. So I need to remind myself we're talking about the water tower, not the filter building at this time. So these pictures are more applicable to the water filter building demolition and the new building that will be constructed in place. With the addition of the new water filter building, the standpipe or water tower will no longer have any use for us as a company or in our water production equipment.
This here, I'm sorry, is the new, this is the new building here?
That's the new building without any windows or doors shown. It's a crude representation of what it might look like. In the background behind that building is a newer Clearwell building that was constructed in 2020, I believe, with new high surface pumping stations from a 1 million gallon water storage facility.
Dawn, would you mind maximizing that so it makes it a little bit bigger?
There's the tower.
I guess it didn't really.
So the tower and the brick building go away. In the background, there's a shallower, like a 1-story building. That is actually a settling basin, which would stay at the corner of Brooks and Main Street.
So that's what it
Yes.
would look like?
More or less, yes. That's
It's a very crude rendering.
very crude, very preliminary.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's okay. I think that's really what we're trying to show. As far as the demolition of the water tower, we would take it down to a pedestal at this time. There's no plans currently moving forward beyond that. So.
Yep. I would like to add that this is just another step in a phased approach to improve all of the infrastructure at the plant itself. A lot of you will probably remember the intake structure that we did in 2012, the new 1.5 million gallon tank, elevated tank on 179 that we added in 2014, new pre-sedimentation basin north of Main Street that we did in 17, the new clear well in 2020, and you can see systematically that we're improving the plant. Hopefully we'll ensure reliable service for another 100 years.
All right. Do you have anything else in your presentation you'd like to tell us before we get into questions?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah.
All right. Laura?
So when you say the pedestal will remain, how much of that? What is the pedestal?
Taking it out to the concrete pedestal.
Oh, the concrete, okay, I was hoping the base would stay.
Oh, well.
And
no,
I mean,
that's
just to,
preliminary. Right now, there's our charge of work with our consultants. What we decided at this point, we would demolish the water tower, the steel structure, down to that concrete pedestal.
Great.
concrete pad.
Yeah.
Pedestal sounds
Concrete
more
pad.
architectural. That's why I was hoping there would be some of it left, but just,
So the retaining wall would stay. That slab that the steel structure is sitting on would stay.
So this is the back side, I'm sorry, can you go back one, Don?
That's at the corner of Main Street and Brook Street.
Okay, and where the other picture you're showing, that you were showing us with the new buildings, that was facing,
That was facing more toward the west from the east, from the bridge, basically.
That was in there.
Some of those pictures are showing the deteriorating state of the water tower through rust and corrosion and leaks.
so you're saying it faces Fulkerson?
That was
It used
closer
to,
to, that photograph was taken basically across the street from Main Street on near Fulkerson. Facing more or less toward the west.
So there's just a grassy hillside facing West Main.
Correct.
we would maintain the perimeter of our property though with some sort of fencing. I'll say barrier. We haven't determined that yet.
I'm just trying to retain the neighborhood feel.
Sure.
I mean, you're on a street that has our Capitol, has a lot of historic buildings along that street, and it enters into West Main neighborhood. This property, your property does butt up against the Lower Jefferson Conservation District that does have guidelines for those in that area to abide by as far as architectural details for new construction. Is that anything you guys would be willing to look into for any new construction there?
We did engage a consultant, mostly from engineering, but they hired an architect, and we asked them, we need to preserve, and we knew that would be a request, to try to preserve some of the brick and mortar neighborhood architectural features.
Instead of it looking like industrial, you know?
Well, that's why it's a red brick building instead of the buff brick or a painted building directly behind it. There will be windows and doors, so it's going to look more like a functional building than just a cube.
I would like to add that we pressed ahead. We are right between, say, 60 and 90% in design right now. And so we didn't have an actual rendering, but we pressed for some kind of a display that we could share with you tonight, just to try to give a visual aid to our words. So it will obviously look better than that.
So this grassy area here, at this point, that's how it is now also, there is no retaining wall there?
Correct.
Correct. That is chain link fence
Okay,
all
that's what I
along
thought.
there until you get to the building.
And so there's obviously no need in your future plans for any kind of a tower whatsoever at all, right? So
The investments that we've made and are making will make that tower's purpose obsolete.
And the new building will be a flat roof building.
Right.
Yes.
With a gentle slope for stormwater runoff. Right.
Have you guys entertained the cost of what it would be to sandblast and repaint that?
I don't have that information in front of me. I couldn't tell you.
To repaint what? I'm sorry.
The water tower.
Oh, no. I don't have cost estimates on that.
What is the reason with taking, obviously you're not using the tower anymore.
Sure.
Is that the reason for you guys taking it down?
It's currently in use now as far
Oh, it
as
is.
for the old water filter building process. So it is a standpipe full of water, and we use that for the backwash of the filters.
But the new filter project will finish late next year, and once it's in service, this tower will no longer be useful.
And so you said the idea was just to take it down to the base.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that means that nothing will be in that place. The new filtration's all in this new building.
Correct.
then?
Correct.
So keeping the tower just as, a monument or something, that's not
I'm afraid that there would be an ongoing cost associated with that.
In our research, when we established the Lower Jefferson Conservation District, we learned that that hillside was used by Civil War soldiers. They entrenched in that hillside because it could give them a good lookout either side the river, Do you guys have any type of plans in place in case you run into anything architectural as far as Civil War
No, that's the first time I've heard that, but I will say that just about every inch of that dirt has been
That's been moved
excavated
already.
previously
Okay,
through the construction of the existing structures.
In fact, the site where the new filter building will be located, that used to be an old clear well that was buried under the hillside. And it's been removed already. And the new filter building is going to be built essentially in its place.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Is, it sounds like you guys don't have a good idea of what, if you were just to maintain the tower, and obviously go ahead with your other plans, but just, maintain it as a structure. It sounds like you don't really have an idea of what the ongoing maintenance cost would be or burden, financial burden. Is that something you could look into, perhaps? To me, it's a big difference if it's like, if you said it's $2 million a year, it would cost us to maintain, that's one thing. Or if it's like a few $1,000s a year, that's a really different conversation.
I think that we're very much in tune to what's asked of us this evening, but from structural issues that we're aware of, it's much beyond the paint. And I think that those costs are probably going to come back significant, if I had to guess.
So it's not superficial. It's
Correct.
How long does steel maintain its integrity?
I think that depends on how much protection it has, and over the years, we've done our best to keep that up, but it's a very old structure.
Can you go back to the map?
On our,
The map that's in our packet,
this one?
Can you show the area photo?
Yeah.
The top one.
Oh, the area.
the aerial, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's why I called it.
Okay. Let me just, see if I can't see that.
Full disclosure, I downloaded this from Google Maps, so the little red button is what came
So
up with
this is,
203 Brook Street.
this is the tower now?
No.
That's right there with the
Right there. Tall, skinny
Oh,
tower.
this, okay, sorry. Okay. So, and this is the existing brick buildings?
Right there.
Right
Down. No, those two green looking rectangular shapes, those are basins full of water, assembly
Oh, okay.
basins for the water treatment process.
right,
And that's the
There
roof.
you go.
There you go. That's the roof of the brick building.
Okay. What's this building here?
That is a new clear well, newer clear well built in 2020 with new high service pumps for maintaining system water pressure.
And we did renovations in the office building at 906 West High, and that is now used as an operator station for the plant operators.
So this here's where the retaining wall is and stuff. Along here.
Farther up by the basins and curving around right there. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So those settling basins will remain. We do have another project for the future plan to do some work, maybe replace one of the settling basins, the one that's further to the west. And so future needs or future purposes for the land that's going to be vacated by the filter buildings is uncertain at this time.
So where does the new building go at that you're looking to build?
The new building?
See where the circle drive is, just below,
Yeah.
right there, in that
Yep.
vicinity right there, correct.
And it was, the old clear well was in that spot before, and it was below grade, so you couldn't see it, but it was underneath the ground there, and that new structure with the yellow roof is what replaced it.
So it'll sit off it'll sit off.
Mhm.
This area.
Correct.
So I have a question about that, if I'm allowed to ask it, since we're not technically talking about the other building. That new building is not going to be in any way on the property or where the current building sits.
Correct, it will be adjacent to that building site. In fact, the new filter building will be built before the demolition of the old filter.
Correct.
And I had another question about the rocket ship.
About the what, I'm sorry?
The water
I don't
standby.
remember what we were calling it, like the technical term. Standpipe, thank you. It said in the packet that there was likelihood of the structural integrity was in question. Do you have an estimate of how long you have until it comes down naturally, or?
We haven't done any kind of life analysis or integrity analysis of the structure.
So we don't know if it could come down tomorrow versus like 20 years from now.
I wouldn't think so. It looked structurally intact, but it's not been officially investigated by an engineer.
Barring like an earthquake, that would take it down.
So really the reason for taking it down is because you're wanting to put in a new system to make our water better, but they're really, you know, because we're here trying to preserve history also, so even though we all drink the water, it's kind of difficult.
Yes.
But that system's going in
Right. Separate
from this
Right.
having to come down.
Aaron?
Would you mind a question from me?
Yeah.
Would you all ask, is it a fair statement to, may not, this engineer, non-engineers be able to answer this, but like, is it a fair statement to say a water tower that is riveted or bolted that much, when empty, would have, far exceeding structural integrity compared to other structures? I mean, I know that water's got a insane pressure on that tower. So full, I understand that, it needs work, but empty, would it be more or less?
I surmise and give you my guesstimation. Riveted structure versus welded structure. I'm sure that steel is heavier than today's standards based on the technology back in 1888. Everything's bigger, a little more stout. So I don't know if it's more or less structurally sound than a new water tower that would be welded.
And I can't speak to the integrity of it, but I will tell you that we don't build them like that anymore. And so there's not a lot of folks that can work on them.
Right.
But they could preserve them. The look of them, the exterior. It's part of our historic skyscape.
Sure.
I agree with you, Laura, and I'm born and raised in Jefferson City, and I am familiar with the water tower, and everybody knows where the water tower is at. If you look at any historical photo of downtown Jefferson City,
It has that, yeah.
there's no pictures of the water tower. It's out of, several blocks away from the Capitol building. In fact, it's across, Mill Bottom, which used to be stockyards back when this water tower was constructed. So I understand the historical significance and the nostalgic value of the water tower. But as far as American Water, it serves as virtually no purpose, and it's not fair to our ratepayers to pay for its extending the life of the water tower and maintain, trying to preserve it. It's not in our business model.
Sure.
Anything else to present to us?
Yes, sir.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Any more questions?
I think it was noted who the architect was. He was very prominent down in Springfield, Missouri. Do we have anything else on him? He was nicknamed the Napoleon of Finance in Springfield, Missouri. He built an opera house down there, and I know he built both this tower and the filtration system, the building. So I was just wondering how notable he actually.
I didn't do a deep dive. His name was P.B. Perkins. I didn't do a deep dive on him as the architect. It really, they sold, so it's like kind of rolled. So this property was sold, and I think it was I want to say 1926, but don't hold me to that, to somebody that was in Pennsylvania. So they were the owners of it, but it was always kind of the Jefferson City Water Works. It never really shifted, and I think it even morphed into Missouri American Water. I don't know that there was ever like a transaction, because that's what I was looking for in the research, and I never found it.
The Jefferson City Water, Capital City Water, Aqua, I think, owned it before Missouri American.
United Water actually did, and then American Water came in and bought it in 2001, I believe.
American and the Missouri American.
I did find some research in the 1960s where they were having conversations about bringing it over as a public utility, but that never happened. So it's always been privately held.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank
So-
you for the opportunity.
So we're not done yet.
Okay.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this request from the public? Okay, is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of this request? Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this request? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seeing none, we will now close testimony. Rachel, staff report? You're already done, okay.
Sorry, out of order.
Okay, do any commissioners have questions for the staff at this point? Okay. Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Motion must be in a positive format.
I move that the demolition clearance of application for the water tower at 203 Brook Street is recommended for approval with the condition that the structure is well documented before and during demolition, and the new structure design aligns with the historic character of the surrounding residential neighborhood.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second, any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, just kind of a technical thing. With there being, for the standing pipe being no proposal for a new structure, is that motion, is that okay? Or, because I think it read as the new structure would have the same characteristics. I'm sure you just read it, I've already forgot, but since that's not part of, the plan, is that okay to make that motion that way?
Are you asking about the conditions? Okay. So the conditions is within the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission power to do if you're doing a demolition clearance review. They spell out specifically 4 different conditions, which is this 8-43I. So one of them is to ensure that the property is documented. It spells out what conditions the commission can impose. And also for the applicant's information, if the applicant is not comfortable with the conditions that the Historic Preservation Commission puts down, they have an appeal process to the city council. But if the conditions are accepted, then city staff could work with the applicant on those processes as well.
I have a question about the conditions.
Okay.
How long, since Dr. Green said, if a new structure comes up and they don't have a plan for a new structure at this time, if a new structure comes up, it has to meet the neighborhood standards. How long would that condition be in place? Are we talking like?
So that could be up to the commission. So what the new construction design, that could be for the property. Basically, you're considering what the look of the new construction would be for the overall view shed of that property. So that could be architecturally, it could be landscape. Maybe you want a tree buffer around. So if it's so industrial and utility, maybe that's the way it harmonizes with the neighborhood. In the past, what has worked really well is allowing staff to work with the applicant to kind of figure out what they think would be harmony with the neighborhood and what options that they have
I
available.
understand that, but
Yeah.
they don't have a plan right now. So I'm asking, how long does this recommendation last?
Oh,
Does it say?
I'm sorry, I
Is it
misunderstood.
like a deadline of a year, or are we
So
talking
yes,
like year?
so
decades?
you have, with the Historic Preservation Commission, if this body approves the demo, they have up to a year to pull a demo permit.
Okay.
And then once that happens, they have up to another year to get it demolished. They do have the ability to request an extension through the building official or the director of building practices.
Okay, but with the part about the rebuilding.
Right.
Because they don't have a current plan. If they have a plan in 10 years, would our conditions still apply then in 10 years, or?
So they will have to go through a planning review process with the city, and that will just be, we'll put a tag. We have a system, we'll put a tag in there that has to go through an additional review. For whatever conditions. That's the motion. So you have a motion for
Right now.
for documentation and for new construction design.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Don, are you gonna do a voice vote?
Laurel
Do we want to have the motion read again? Would you like that? Would you like the motion read again that Dr. Green made before we vote? Okay. Sorry.
Laura Ward,
No.
Brian Warren,
Yes.
Dr. Boston,
Aye.
Brad Richard.
Aye.
Dr. Green,
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Okay.
Nothing against Missouri American law. I'm a building hugger. I just.
It's difficult for us.
It's bittersweet for me.
It's a hard one.
I'm with you, Laura, but
I think we all feel that way. I mean, it's difficult. New business, continued demolition review of 909 West Main Street. So we have a staff report.
I do. There's so many pictures. Okay. Staff received an application for demolition for the water filtration building located at 909 West Main Street. The purpose of the request is for the Historic Preservation Commission to conduct a demolition review in accordance with Section 8-43 of the water filter building located at 909 West Main Street. The water filtration building, as you can see by the plaque, was constructed in 1946, so is considered a demolition review. The water treatment facility is not on the National Register. However, it is noted that the water treatment facility is currently being surveyed by Stantec as far as the Phase 2 West Main survey. Whoops. Just got to see it.
It's in your pack.
Yes. I can repeat the rest of the history of this, kind of all comes with it. There were other smaller structures there in place, kind of almost like temporary structures, and this property was built in 1926. The historic context does recommend conducting an industrial building thematic survey cited on page 178. Staff recommendation in reviewing section 8-43F, the building is notable in terms of subsection A, its association with an event or events that significantly contributed to the broad patterns of history of architectural heritage of the city, county, state, or nation. And subsection H, it is an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood or the entire community. Current zoning is again RA2 residential. The proposed building for demolition is currently not listed locally or nationally, but would likely be eligible. Due to the facility serving as a water utility, it is understandable that upgrades over time are required in order to provide safe water for customers and safety for employees. It is staff recommendation to recommend approval for demolition of the water filtration plant at 909 West Main Street. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I will, before I open it back up, there is a photo in your packet, because I know I talked with some of the commissioners early, and I don't know if it made it. Yep, there it is. You have to look sideways.
Sideways one.
Sorry about that. There is a line that they provided which shows you where they're requesting demolition and what is to remain.
First floor.
Correct. So everything kind of to the left of that line is requested to be demoed. The water basins and the brick wall to the right, and that brick wall curves all the way around to Brook Street. That is to remain. Now I will be happy.
Any questions for Rachel?
Similar to the last time where they're gonna present again, or,
They can.
but if we have questions for them, we can ask after.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we're getting at. Thank you.
Any questions for Rachel? Would you all like to speak on this? Would you like to talk to us about it? Yeah. Any question
I
for
don't
us?
have any picture.
No additional photos, some similar photos renderings would be applicable to this discussion as well.
Do you have anything you'd like to tell us?
Yes, so currently we're under design for the new field water filtration system. Projected construction is to start as early as next month with some site preparation excavation for the final construction of the new filter building to be completed the fourth quarter of 2024. Once the systems are fully commissioned and operating to the satisfaction of staff, then we would proceed with the removal and demolition of the existing water filtration building as early as the first quarter of 2025. That as well as the standpipe. And again, for the same reasons that the plant is 100 years old and to provide continued water quality for the citizens of Jefferson. We felt this necessary and prudent and part of our ongoing strategy of continued investment into our infrastructure.
So this building is being used now?
It is?
Yes. Can you pull up the construction drawings that I shared with you this evening? That might provide additional information on.
This one?
Yes, thank you. These are preliminary drawings provided by the architect. Again, it's an aerial photo showing all the different water
Can you
systems.
make any larger, Don?
Don, go to view. Up at the top view. And then there's a full screen mode. They can control it by the clicker if you've got it in that mode. I can just hand it to them if you want to control the.
Is there a pointer? So in the center there, it shows the building that's cross-hatched, which is the building to be demolished. And it's the brick building, those windows and doors facing Main Street. And then there's the water filters themselves are directly south or behind that brick structure. And they're basically 8 water filters. And the new water filter is, sorry, I'm still learning how to use this. So the new filter building is that big square shown right there. And it's going to have 6 large water filters installed. So the water currently is pumped up from the river, goes through pre-settling basins, flows across the street through pipes under Main Street, of course, and leaves settling basins here to remove different additional contaminants before it makes its way to the final water filtration system. And then clean, treated water flows down to the clear well, the building located close to the High Street, where the high surface water pumps pump it out to our distribution system. So the new water filtration system is currently in design. We hope to start construction soon. Then once it's built, the older water filtration system will be demolished and future uses for its current occupied space are uncertain. But future projects on the site are to restore or recondition or replace the settling basins, which I described earlier. So.
It's similar to what we discussed earlier. When this is online and used and useful, the old filter building will be obsolete as well. And so those filters will no longer be used, no water will be routed through there. So it's very similar.
Right.
Did you look at trying to repurpose the building or kind of?
The way that it was constructed, and again, I'm not an engineer, but I think that that would present significant challenges.
And the buildings stay, and you do the work on the structures next to it are. Sorry, I know you said it, but.
I think similar to the standpipe, it would present an ongoing liability for care and cost.
But has any official work been, like analysis been done on that? Or are we just speculating?
No, but I mean, for example, it is a brick building, and so tuck pointing at a minimum would be a cost to upkeep. And there are structural considerations for that building as well.
My thoughts are, if the building can stay without, and we can still do the renovation on the pools next to it? Is that what?
Settling basin, not like big swimming pools.
The basins. I was, sorry. In the town where my parents currently live, somebody took the old water tower building, built their house, and they actually turned those basins into pools that everyone was swimming except me. I wasn't cool enough for those parties. But my question is if those basins can be renovated without destroying the building, has any consideration been on selling the building to an interested party and them do whatever the heck they want with it in regards to renovating it? Because I've seen various buildings like this in other cities be turned into breweries, bars, in my dreams, a museum. I've seen it, but I don't think that would happen here. But I mean, in Reno, Nevada, where I was just living, they turned an old firehouse building into a brewery, bar, pub, gastropub, and it was amazing and super popular. And I mean, like, you had to get reservations a year in advance.
Sure. That hasn't been looked at, but what I can tell you, I've worked at this district now for 9 years, and through the various projects and phases of this total rehab of the plant, I'm very familiar with that corridor through Main Street. And what you can't see is what's underground. It's very congested, and there's not a lot of room for us to get chaseways and electric and chemicals and pipes through there. And the future phases quite possibly will require the use of some of this real estate to provide for those future improvements. It's not as big of a footprint, really, as one would think when you're on site.
And you are going to retain the site?
Yes.
Have you looked into partial demo? Like keeping the front part of it, like skinny, tall, and getting rid of the back? At least this historic street retains its integrity.
Well, again, once the new building is constructed, the old building will service no purpose.
Well, I was gonna ask too, down the line, future for office storage.
I could say, and I know I haven't lived here my whole life, but I've been here long enough. This is home for my family now, and believe it or not, I have very strong feelings about this place as well, but there's no logical or practical business purpose for that structure once the new one is complete. I wish there was, I really do, but I can't make that argument.
I think that one of the things is are they going to do anything to soften the landscape and stuff also? I mean,
Tell you,
so far, really, they haven't done, with the other new buildings and everything, there's been nothing to soften for the neighborhood, or, it's very blunt, unfortunately.
Sure.
And with getting rid of these structures, it's gonna be really very blunt.
I think referring to the earlier inquiry, we would work very closely with the city staff, Rachel and Eric both, to make sure that we're meeting those needs.
For me personally, I just moved here in 2016. I remember driving up with my dad seeing Jefferson City for the first time and seeing those structures and being like, wow, that's super cool. So to see it come down, it would be terrible for me, but I could also see it being a blight to other people being like, ooh, this is what I'm coming into. You know, Jefferson City being a capital city, any capital city has that, you know, aura of, oh, you know, because it's a capital city, you know.
Right.
So having that nice soft landscape kind of diminishes that, oh, people have from it being a capital city.
So with the improvements that you're making and looking into a crystal ball in the future, can you see that you would potentially outgrow this area? I mean, I mean, and if you are seeing that that's a possibility?
I don't think so.
No.
And the reason why is because if you think about our footprint, American Water's footprint, we've got some great neighbors all around us, the water districts, District 1, District 2, District 4. So we don't really have the ability, you know, to naturally expand, if you will, and a lot of what here in town has already been developed. And so we haven't seen a lot of fluctuation in some time in our customer count. So I feel like the structures that we are constructing through these various phases are going to meet that need for a very long time.
Those districts are also interconnected too. So
Yes.
water can be
Right, there's emergency interconnects between the districts and Missouri American Water.
Yeah, they're great neighbors.
Sure. I did want to ask the commission, or just make a general comment. I've had an opportunity to tour this building, and it's awesome. It's really cool. And, I didn't know if any other commissioners have seen the interior of it, but it's exceptional. It was a good opportunity to take a look inside.
Yes, thank you for the interior photos. Do you have any plans in place for architectural salvage of anything?
Nothing at this time. But we're open to the suggestion. Sure.
Okay.
It'd be really nice if like Cole County Historic Society, the museum would have, there's
Sure.
plaques and different things like that we've seen in pictures, some things, and
Some of the stone.
Yeah, I think we're very open to that. Again, we'd work closely with you to capture that.
Talking to other staff members, I think several years ago, there was some tuck pointing done to the building, minimal. And there's significant, I don't know if the photos really capture that, but there's some significant repairs required for that building now. Obviously, water infiltration through windows and doors. But it's an industrial setting, not an apartment building.
would you all be, I mean, I know it's not your all's decision, but would possibly a marker or something even along there marking the original build, you know, from 1888 and then this structure and everything, so at least there's something that marks the history of it?
Sure.
I mean, there's been hundreds and thousands of people who've worked there.
Sure.
I mean, it's been a big source for the city forever.
I think it's a very broad idea right now, but I think we would, again, work very closely to try to make that happen. So,
My concern is nothing on you guys. I just don't want anyone to make promises here that.
no, I wouldn't do that.
Well, I'm just saying, it's just kind of a suggestion.
Sure.
It might help the cities blow about losing this piece of shit.
Sure.
Just repeat it again. We cannot keep this at all, but even if you sold it to somebody else because of the
Not
stuff underneath.
practically. I feel like we would need the footprint eventually for some of the future upgrades.
But no current plan for the site.
Correct.
Where that building is.
Potentially, the next phase of this improvement would be a modification to our secondary settling basins. And with it being right up against the primaries and the filter building currently, I don't know what we would get into if that structure's still there.
But with part of the water treatment facility actually across the street, there are buried piping and chaseways connecting the two facilities. And then under the sidewalk running along Main Street, there's a lot of interconnecting utilities as well, which serve this building and the future buildings. So there'll be a lot of water treatment, power, chemical feeds back and forth under the street. So,
You plan to address those?
well, yeah, obviously during the construction, right? So,
Is there a tunnel under West Main?
not a walk-through tunnel, there's just some shallow chaseways.
Yeah. And then the various pipes that currently go.
So if this building comes down, that site is going to be without a structure for a little while.
For sure, yes. I would say that's accurate. And that's again where I think when it comes to the aesthetics of the property, we would be looking for suggestions to make that something that was palatable and perhaps include something to memorialize what was there, albeit a plaque on the new building or something incorporated into the landscaping itself.
And that new building going up behind it is going to have windows and doors, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it
I
is.
saw that and I was like, oh, no.
They dropped a rectangle on there for us. So
There's a Word document provided with that had the disclaimer at the bottom.
Yes.
Windows and doors document.
sorry about
It could be
that.
Well, no, like, and so
three or four large pane
the
windows.
community I used to live in, we had there was a fight between the city and a developer, and he built what is known as the Towers of Spite, where it literally had a door and enough windows for fire code, but everything else was just,
Oh, no,
so that's why I was like, not again.
no.
Well, we had the drawings of the construction plan, sorry. We'll go back to that.
If we can.
It was the PDF file. Partial plans, that's it. So there you go, there's some elevation views which actually show doors and windows. That's the east. That's the east there, and so, sorry, yeah, that's the north, south. So it's showing concrete, but there's a terrain or grass that would go in front of it to hide some of the concrete, and the brick above that.
Sorry I had to ask so many questions in your meeting, but with the removal of this structure, would that be the last remaining historical structure on this site?
I'm thinking.
Yeah, so the settling basins were constructed in 1960s, I believe.
Maybe, right around there.
I believe so.
And that's on the north side of Main Street, which is still the same, to me, it's the same property, but.
So those will remain, so it would look like a brick retaining wall from the corner of Brooks and Main Street down to where this building, where
Correct.
the old filter building started. That would stay.
And in the picture you gave us with the red line, so these steps and everything will go out?
Yes, that design's unclear how we're going to transition and backfill and once the old building is demolished.
But that same red brick look as you come around the corner from Brooks on Main Street, the preset which would be on your left if you were coming towards the Capitol, and then the brick on this building which would then be on your right. We're going to try to match all that up. So it'll keep the same general look.
I don't know if this is a Rachel question or a you question. So this is a brick building. Yes, there's windows and doors, but this is also a brick building, but with pretty detailing. Is it possible, as kind of an homage to this building that's coming down, to leave this up and kind of make it look?
Incorporate some cast stone, maybe some brick features to mimic that, maybe little coins or something on the corners, things like that. I don't think that's too far out of line, so we will consider that with our architect.
And that would also help, I think, help the city follow it a little bit better, but also keep with that residential and keep it.
Sure, I understand.
I live by water district, or I live right by one. They put up trees to,
Sure.
make their house look
That's
nice.
fine. That's fine. So remember you said about trying to match the brick through the retaining wall and everything? It'd be really nice if, I'm not sure, the medallions or the keys or something above the windows in the building. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
If those could be incorporated into the retaining wall.
How difficult is that?
Or the new building.
or the new building, or,
Sure.
you know, to keep some of the history. If they could remove some of those pieces and.
Right, I understand.
I realize we're not gonna be able to speak in absolute.
Right, and I understand that.
But
I mean, we're kind of just giving suggestions.
Right.
I will take both of those points back and make those recommendations.
I can't speak for Donna, but she might want to do some architectural salvage. HCJ maybe? She's not
I
here.
think they said already that.
Yeah, we'll work with them because they're so, it's very premature in what their project's going to look like and what they're going to need. So as they go through the process with the city, we'll capture some of the, I'll keep the commission up.
It'd be nice, Cole County Historic Society also, because it's definitely, it's not.
And if I may, like some of the things that I'm thinking about, because what they're talking about, the new design is set back so far from this building be up on the street. My mind was going more to like creating almost like a buffer with landscaping, so that way they're a utility, so it's hard to.
I think that's what we've been talking about a lot, is that what you guys have done so far in the new buildings is it's very harsh to the landscaping for the neighborhood.
And we could work on the architectural, some of those features a little bit, but maybe more so what's visual from that new site location. But kind of, this is my personal opinion. You can shift if that's what the commission wills. But I was thinking more of the fencing and native species trees that create kind of a
Green space.
that hide
Buffer.
your buffer that hide your utilitarian nature.
Is that going to be feasible if they have to get under there?
Well, and that's all that we work out, is we have to go through our civil engineers as well for stormwater and for the tree roots with tear up infrastructure. So there's definitely internal processes for all of that.
I mean, I'm all for native plants and all that sort of stuff, but it also costs a lot of money to put that in. And if you're just going to tear it up in the next 10 years, is it worth it?
Well, I mean, there's city right of way, so a lot of that would depend on the infrastructure that happens. So it's just, you can't predict it. It's just one of the costs of maintenance, as you.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Okay. All right, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Again, the motion's in a positive format.
I'll make a motion that we approve the demolition review application for 909 West Main Street as recommended for approval by this commission.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any comments on the motion? Discussion?
Within our motion, should we include any conditions? I know this is basically an advisory vote, but just for the record.
So the commission can make recommendations, but they can't impose conditions.
Conditions on this motion.
Correct.
So the recommendations have been noted already? Okay, within the minutes. Okay, gotcha.
So we have a first and second. Any more discussion? Okay,
Laura?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
Dr. Boston?
Abstain.
I'm sorry,
Abstain.
Brad?
No.
Dr. Green?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, 3 ayes and 2 nays and 1 abstain.
Motion doesn't carry with it.
Not pass.
Must be 5.
Three ayes, 2 noes, 1 abstain.
So it makes it a split basically.
Right, so it does not carry.
So the motion fails.
So the process there, because it's a design review, before code, is correct. So in section 8-43, subsection J. Okay. So for applications for historic preservation demolition review, historic preservation commission review of applications for demolition review that do not require a preservation demolition clearance shall be valid for a period of 1 year from the date of approval of the application. Should the application be denied by the historic preservation, the applicant has to wait for a 75-day review period until that expires. So the applicant, with the dismissal, the applicant has to wait 75 days, and then they could proceed with obtaining a demolition permit.
With how we currently voted?
Because
So
it's,
then our recommendations go away also.
I'm sorry,
So then the recommendations go away also.
no, that was
No, not
for,
the first one.
that was for the first
But
one.
the second,
For the
No
second one,
recommendations.
you can't impose conditions.
Oh, I see.
So recommendation and conditions are two separate definitions. Any questions about that? I know this is not one of our favorite pieces of code.
So you said they have to wait 75 days?
They have to wait 75 days in a review period, so to see if they could come up with any strategies to save the building. After that 75 days is passed, then they could go ahead and proceed with the demolition permit, but the recommendation against will be on the record from the Historic Preservation Commission. And that is the power that you have with the demolition review. Any questions?
thank you,
We're
gentlemen.
just making eye contact.
Oh, okay.
Do you have anything
Can I
else?
ask a question, Rachel?
Sure.
Can Missouri American Water resubmit? Or
So really all you would need to do is just wait 75 days until you pull a demo permit. So this is, I'm not really sure what the intent was for what's reading. It's one of our codes that, not my personal favorite. But what the intent is that you would try to consider any available options available to Missouri American Water to save the building. If they cannot come up with those options, you just wait out a 75-day period and pull the permit. But we could follow up again. We'll be sending all this in writing to you within the coming days.
great.
Okay. All right, thank you. Other business. Oh, design review, I'm sorry, 622 East McCarty Street.
Yes, I do want to update the commission on 622 East McCarty Street. This was one of our dangerous buildings. It did change ownership, and the property owner is here to present on it. This property was within the School Street Local Historic District. Within your packet, you'll have the photos of what the request is, but I also included Section 8-46 of the City Code related to design criteria. And then we also included in the packet the School Street Historic Design Guidelines for your reference material. Just a little bit updated that's related to this property. This property is within the floodplain. And that was one of the challenges with this local historic district. I'll say the applicant discovered that if there's code deficiencies with the property, that they're allowed to spend money to update the property to get it up to par with code deficiencies. Meaning that the 50% rule doesn't come into effect until the code deficiencies are resolved. Any property improvements then trigger into the floodplain permit requirements of that 50% rule, where you cannot improve the property more than 50% of its value, which is great news for our little historic district, because that means that we can have code enforcement go through and claim and cite all the deficiencies. The property owner would then be able to pay to fix those deficiencies without impacting that 50% rule. So today or tonight for you, the applicant has come forward with new roof options for your review.
This is currently the red roof building we looked at a couple different times. Metal roof.
Red metal particle.
That's the only one with the metal.
It's been on, we went after it.
That's right.
Yes. Current, present, in the past. All right. You want to come forward and identify yourself?
Yes.
Tell us your name.
How this works.
Yes. State your name.
We're in this room this time.
And then talk.
Matt Holland, here for H&H Property Management, owner of the structure. So
you're looking at roofs? That's what.
yeah. So right now our concern is stabilizing the structure. That's why we are starting here with a roof, and we're not talking about porch posts or soffit materials or anything like that. All of this stuff will undoubtedly have to come through this commission here, and probably, but hopefully at the beginning of next year. Right now, we're just looking at keeping the water from coming in anymore and getting something that maybe looks a little bit better than a red tin roof on it. So what we would like to do is we would like to put on architectural shingles. The house originally was shake shingles. So this kind of gives that sort of texture, and the brown wood color is a fair approximation of wood. So, you know, we feel that this is a pretty good compromise to trying to put wood shake shingles back on it and still keep it within a budget that allows us to save the structure and, you know, produce something that's aesthetically appealing for the neighborhood. Definitely much more so than a red metal roof.
Are you going to change the roof line any?
No.
Things?
No. Well, there's box gutter on the front. I have no clue how that's going to work. Until we get everything tore off and we see what's there. Ideally, I like the look of box gutters. I would either maintain it or simulate it in another way. We did that on a building across the road, but it's also, it just really depends upon what we get into and what type of structural problems. The roof that was on this before was before the tin was an asphalt roof, and it looked like it was probably done, you know, for 20 years before they finally started putting tin over it. So I have no clue what we're actually going to find structure-wise when we get all this tore off. It's definitely going to all get resheeted because it's still, as opposed to having solid decking, has the planks that's basically skip-a-row for shakes right now. So,
does anyone have any questions?
Small one for Rachel. So if Matt were to get in there and discover something catastrophic that would slightly alter his plans, does he have to come back here, or?
if I were to find something structural with the roof, or something
No,
entire in the house.
I'm not a construction.
No, just because the structural with the roof, we would just apply for a building permit, replace whatever was failing and move right on along, because we wouldn't change the look of the property, if that's what
All that we're approving is the use of the architectural shingles. Yeah.
Okay,
That's all that,
Okay,
that's all
okay.
that's being asked,
I
correct?
was just wanting just some clarification on it.
And there, I
The
will
process.
I will note that residential roofs are not required to pull a building permit unless there's a structural component. You know, if you get in there and it's, you know, your framing is, then you have to pull a permit. But just to resheet and reshingle a roof is not required for a building.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone, I'm sure Brad and Laura, I don't know if this happened before. I think it happened for the other ones who were on the commission. But we talked about the roof on this house several times and leaking and not being approved and other issues. So I think we've talked about this roof a lot, it seems like.
It looks like there's only box cutters left on the very front.
Yeah, it looks like it was an aesthetic design choice and not, which actually, we've got 2 properties across the road that box gutters on the front wrapped around the edges, and when it appeared that was how they were originally built as well.
They do it fancy for the street is
Right.
when, you know, people that don't have as much means, they still want to look like they have a, you know, a house that costs more, has more architectural features, but so they just kind of wrap them a little bit around. But yeah, there's nothing on the side, it looks like, at all.
Yeah, on 613 and 615 across the road, we accomplished that by using regular gutters and then basically boxing them in so that, because regular gutters are made to look like crown molding, which is what you would put around. So we just built vinyl boxes underneath them and we're able to carry it on around the back of the property and kind of had the best of both worlds.
So you didn't have to pull a permit for this? You haven't? Okay. So I commend you for coming to us with this, even though we didn't get tagged by staff through the permit process.
You got tagged in.
They got tagged anyway. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here
Somebody would have told
and
them.
answering our questions and providing us photos. So.
Not a problem. Prefer to do it the right way and really just trying to keep the block nice.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the round architectural shingles that have been provided by the property owner of 622 East McCarty, which is a part of the School Street Historic District.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Ready for vote?
Laura? Aye. Brian?
Yes.
Dr. Ralston? Aye. Brad Schaefer?
Aye.
Dr. Green?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. So how is the structure?
Believe it or not, gonna save the plaster in a lot of the rooms. For what the roof looked like, it didn't leak as bad. There's a bedroom and the kitchen, bedroom ceiling that's destroyed, and a kitchen that pretty well is going to be down to the studs. That's the corner where there is no, I probably where you all stopped and put the roof on that if I was really. But it's I don't think that it's actually hurt anything structurally. It appears to be a aesthetic and just basically some plaster.
The grouts probably helped. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other business, HPF grant update.
Yes, I wanted to give the commission just a brief update of all of our great activities. Our Phase 2 West Main survey is being conducted by Stantec. They were here at our last meeting or the meeting before, but they've conducted the field work, and they are, we're working on our milestone 6, I believe, in which they submit sample forms to the State Historic Preservation Office to make sure that they're filling out the forms correctly before they fill out all of the forms. So that project is moving along. It's just it's in the paperwork phase, so it's a little bit quiet, and we don't have anything fancy to show off. But they will be present later at a future HPC meeting. Our design guidelines, however, we did receive a 30% draft deliverable, which we included in your packet. So please take a look at it. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns, or would like to make comments. H3 Studio, who's our consultant for that project, will be at the October 10th. October 10th. I just want to make sure that's clear. October 10th HPC meeting. They're also going to be here in the afternoon of that day. And one of the questions that got brought up was the Capital Overlay Historic District, or I guess the East Capitol Overlay. And the 400 block of East Capitol understandably threw them for a little bit of a loop with as far as the design guidelines go for that specific historic area. So I think they wanted to come in and discuss that, and kind of, it's not necessarily a public meeting, but I think they want opinions of stakeholders for that, especially with the 400 block of East Capitol was the Barbara Bishop properties. We have the 2 corner pieces and 2 other properties on that road. So they're going to present different ideas on what infill options would look like as far as design guidelines go. And then also what it would look like if there was property assemblage, because that's also an option there as well. So I think that would be a very good meeting to participate in. If you're free during the day, you're more than welcome to come kind of get the staff one-on-one with them as well. It's more informal versus the meeting.
What time would that be?
We haven't decided that yet. They just said that they were going to be here around lunchtime and then after. So we'll once we get the scheduling details, we'll send it out to the group, because I think this is something that is going to be very important for what Capitol Avenue looks like, and it's going to kind of, there's been questions on if the overlay still fits the need for Capitol Avenue after the tornado and after demolition of the Barbara Bishop properties. So it's a good opportunity to kind of help determine what the future landscape of that area is going to look like.
Paul Broom.
Yes, our Paul Broom revitalization projects. We do have 300 East High is still undergoing its environmental review process. It's more of an intricate building, and they were talking about one of their main features, or one of their main requests, was to replace the roof, which is a flat roof, but I think there was some confusion on how it was going to impact the parapet and the tower, the Oriole Tower, or the cupola that pops up, or whatever you want to call it. So other than that, all the rest of the projects are starting to go into their procurement phase. Which means they're hiring people to start the work. So I think along our 4 properties that are currently in that phase, you'll start to see some activity at those properties that were awarded the Paul Broom grant. I do want to update the commission on the J.C. Penney building, 206, 208, 210. And I believe I've updated in the past, when they were going through their environmental review process and getting them to sign off on a conservation easement, which is a requirement of the grant. The conservation easement stipulated that the property had to be preserved for at least 10 years in exchange for accepting the federal dollars. The challenge in that was that means that there could not be any demolition, and with the structural stability, the National Park Service felt like it was not a good investment at that time for that property, and that the property owners would have to invest some of their own money into structurally stabilizing it first before they would proceed with investing. So we did not deobligate the grant funding from the property owners. However, the fire department was doing their inspections on Friday, and the JCPenney building was declared dangerous this morning. So it is going to start the dangerous building process. We will go through that process and we will work with the property owners and see where that project goes. But I did want to update the commission on the status of that structure.
All right. HPC code revision meeting October 5th.
Yes, so internally, and I'd like to apologize to the commission, this is on me. We somewhat backburnered, the code revision. We had some internal staff found some discrepancies, and so we were trying to repair it, and then our department director retired and we got a new one, so we've caught the new one, our new director, up to speed. He's reviewing the code. We're meeting internally as staff. We plan on holding the HPC code revision meeting on October 5th at 5:30, so we can circle back and get back to work on this code, which hopefully will be in final draft status on October 5th.
Doing public comment. Our next regular meeting is October 10th, 2023. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Doris.